Wear your heart on your sleeve. Welcome back, everyone, and we continue with the national dialogue. We love this country, and we are here trying to develop the ideas of the future to shape what South Africa will be, what South Africa can be. We don't have to be limited, but what by the options that we have currently.
Social media. I know CMOs think that social media is just a playing tool for Gen Zs and Gen Alphas, but it really isn't. This is where the future leaders of organizations are going to be found on LinkedIn, on TikTok. In fact, I can bet you in the next 10 years, and I think that might be even going too far, CMOs of huge companies are going to be found from a TikTok they made or a YouTube video that they've made. The world is changing and people are just not as rigid as they used to be. So you can't discount that. It's still part of people participating in the job market, in the brand market. And if you're sleeping on that because you're relying on your qualifications and your networks, I think you're going to see that it's not going to work for you, especially because one of the most powerful things that social media is doing is it's making the customer your loudest and most potent stakeholder. And this means that a CMO who has the buy-in of the public as well as the board of the organization is going to be a better fit than somebody who's just liked and known by the people within the company.
TikTok and YouTube have something to say, and I appreciate that we kick off this Women's Day special episode of the National Dialogue with Lebo Lion, who is one of the inspirational figures and definitely a voice that is trying to lead and steer the conversation towards a more youthful, fresh perspective on the world that we live in and the opportunities that are all around us.
We are currently, as the whole world, watching an international ritual.
From marketing campaigns to spiritual rituals. Umakosi from TikTok fame, she describes a major global shift. And this major global shift is aligning and using the celestial energies and ancestral knowledge to steer humanity towards a path that the rulers and powers that we have already predetermined. Let's listen in for some more.
Be performed. The oligarchy has been performing rituals since last year, since 2020. They are at the final steps, and South Africa, you are at the core of it as usual, Bantazi.
The views are her own, but I have my own perspective. And not to say I completely and 100% agree with her, but I do think that there is a calendar, a global cycle of the 80 years and a war, 80 years and a war. And so now that war is not acceptable, now that we've generally tried to move violence and war out of our global consciousness. Not to say it's not happening, not to say that the genocide in the Congo, the genocide happening in Palestine, the genocide happening in South Sudan, not to say that these things are not happening, but generally they are being hidden from public consciousness because that would rile people up and cause them to stop those wars. And so deception becomes the tactic in this current time that we're in. So it's not to say that from a spiritual perspective, I do not agree that there's something happening. I just don't necessarily know what it is, and I don't necessarily agree with this lady's particular take on the matter. But it does feel like there is major wool being pulled over our eyes, and when we wake up, we will own nothing and be happy with it. At the end of this whole period, whatever little bit of power that we currently have, whatever little bit of agency that we currently have, this freedom of speech on these platforms, all of this feels like these are the last days of this. And once the ritual is complete and once enough people remain asleep in terms of this global consciousness shift, then the people that are in power will get their will and their will be done. And we need to all be working on our own personal journeys and aligning our own personal souls with our spiritual callings and our spiritual understandings, and making sure that we've made matters right between us and our creator, because it does feel like there is a bamboozle that is being done, and this bamboozle seems some people are aware of it and are giving and issuing warnings, while other people are not aware of it, completely oblivious, and therefore will be the sheep. And this is the time. This is part of our national dialogue where we also need to be thinking about the spiritual elements of what South Africa is.
We are currently witnessing a ritual. It took me a bit, as I was busy talking in the video, I put all these pieces together. They are completing a ritual right in front of us, lying to us about the volcano. They made it erupt. Lying to us about discovering things at the bottom of the pyramid. Lying to us, those airplanes all of a sudden crashing. It was rituals. All these sudden deaths, the children in the container, it was rituals. It has been constant rituals. Children disappearing, adults disappearing. Now it's the burning of explosions in different places, explosions of volcanoes. And then the thing has landed on our shores. And that's why that plane landed in Eswatini. Because of Skylink, they've been tracking its movements. It is in our shores. Stop focusing on the aliens. That would be whatever it is they're doing in the skies. But they're currently performing an international, global ritual. The oligarchy is busy performing a ritual right in front of us. And if you are in panic and fear, it feeds off that energy. Panic and fear, uncertainty, then willingness to submit to the higher power that is going to come as your salvation. The one who's going to get people to succumb and believe in whatever they say. The belief of a new religion, a new power force, because all religions have fallen. They need to create a new one, so they have to awaken her. But the mistake happened in Egypt. That was not the host, you dimwits. She is not a host. She's incapable of hosting. That's not her true identity, you dimwits.
Those who understand will understand, and there will be many who will be left behind. I'm not necessarily endorsing that message, but I definitely do subscribe to an idea that we are being controlled and there are ways of herding collective consciousness into a certain area, into making certain decisions, into being addicted to certain frequencies. Next up is one of my favorites on TikTok, and she also does this spiritual type content. Let's give her an opportunity to speak.
If we just kept going, kept reminding ourselves that there's a better, way to live life. There's a better way to do things as human beings. There's a better way to be. We reminded ourselves, we kept our souls intact, and now we're here witnessing that we were right all along, and we can actually now start building the new world that we want to live in after these systems crumble. Because they don't start crumbling just, through buildings or through, revolution that you see on TV. As Gil Scott Heron said, the revolution will not be televised. It starts with conversation. It starts with your mind. It starts with changing your perspectives on the world. We've been seeing just how much the West has been afraid of Africans waking up to the truth, waking up to our knowing about who we are, about the power that we have, and about how much we sustain the whole globe, and the fact that without Africa there's really nothing. There's no earth, there's no reason to be alive. Without Africa is the heart of the entire globe. And so people have been watching us fight for our lives to remember our truth, and now that we've remembered, we are now going to be able to build the full future that we knew we'd be able to, that is possible for us outside of these systems.
You remember the methodology? Go back to episode 1. This is what we're talking about.
There's so many of us who are gifted and brilliant and smart in our own unique ways, who can, identify the cracks in the system, who can identify problems that need to be fixed. I'm one of them who has been active in doing this, using the degree, using my lived experience, using every resource available to try and build a body of work, but to try and also kind of show people that life after capitalism is real, life after white supremacy is real, life after patriarchy is real, where everybody gets to be themselves, everybody gets to live freely and enjoy their lives.
Gone are the days when they would mock the people who believe in utopia. Gone are the days when you would look down on the people who are the seers, the people who have the ideas. Gone are the days when it would be money talks. Gone are the days of spin wins everything. Now we are in the age of truth. Pisces is behind us. The time when you had to have a perspective win over another. That is gone. The duality is gone. There's only one truth. There's only one perspective. The whole perspective. Wholeness is what we're looking for now. That's what the age of Aquarius is about, or at least that's how I understand it. And I am not alone. There are people out there who are creating and affecting collective consciousness. These ideas might seem impractical to those who want to keep what they know and to keep what they're benefiting from. However, there are practical ways of changing this. And I really love this video because it's woman after woman sharing their perspectives. And yeah, it feels weird to be mansplaining all of this. But yes, this is my way of honoring women. And the last video that I'm going to share is another person I genuinely think is a genius in our time. And we don't realize how lucky we are. Her name is Tessa Dooms, and let's get into some of the stuff that she has to say.
The artisan programs were big because being a plumber, being a rower was not frowned upon because it was a real pathway to a better life. What we need to create is multiple pathways to a better life, so that when you choose the university, you're not just choosing it as a stepping stone. You're choosing it because you also want to be there for all of the consciousness building and all of the things that you're talking about. But the other thing about it is really that we have to ask ourselves and understand that in terms of how young people's lives are set up right now, the aspiration towards middle classness is an aesthetic right now. It is an aesthetic. We are being sold an aesthetic. So you can't forget that this is still a capitalist society. And what capitalism is doing is selling us dreams, selling us fetishes, selling us ideas of what we need to look like and sound like and be like in order to have value. And so young people are pursuing that in their pursuits. So many of them will end up with jobs they hate. They'll end up, I think, young black professionals in corporate not only experience the most racism, but have the least quality of life.
People are not commodities. People have light within them. People have joy within them. And it is being trapped and suffocated in these systems. And people are finally waking up and trying to break free. There has to be another way. We cannot be told that this is the only way. We cannot be told that societies can't organize themselves in other ways. It is not that democracy is everything. It is not that capitalism is everything. They are just pushing that agenda to continue their way of life. However, we are in a new day. And in this new day, we have to find the light within. We have to find alternatives.
Because they have to look like they are surviving and thriving, while they're not actually being paid comparably to their white counterparts. They're not actually getting the benefit of the life because what they have is credit lines, not good salaries, and they have to make sure they look after everybody else who's not getting a job in a 30% unemployment environment.
We live in an extraction economy. An extraction economy in the sense that from the time that diamonds were discovered in Kimberley, it has never been about building a better country for people to reside in. It has been about maximizing the extraction, maximizing the export of the benefit to another society somewhere else, to not develop outside of the ports, to not develop outside of the mines, to not develop outside of the roads that are needed to move those goods to the ports. There is nothing about the design of this country that says it was designed for people to live and thrive. Everything about this country is colonial. Everything about this country is about extracting as much as you can. They don't want a fair exchange. They need to make a profit. They need to exploit. They need for you to be lesser. This inequality and us having a world record of inequality is not by accident. It is by design. It is on purpose, and it's built on your back until you wake up and realize that you won't make it to this capitalist class. You have to change the relations. You have to make them change their minds about how this whole situation and economy is designed, because we are not the mines. We are not a slave class. We are now active citizens participating, and our voice has to matter. But we have to make it matter. We have to organize ourselves. We have to be clear about what we think. We have to be having the conversation and debate in a way that makes it make sense. And this is why I love Tessa Doom so much, because not only does she speak the language, but she does the research and she's building the systems.
They're in the same geographic space and they have the time on their hands. And so it's again opportunistic of political parties to organize themselves. In other countries around the world, university campuses are not where you join a political party. The SRC is not made up of one political party or another. It's made up of the soccer club versus the yachting society versus the, not which political party. It's opportunistic nonsense, man. We should actually ban that thing. We should ban that thing from university campuses. If you want to go and get young people to be in politics, go and get them at their houses. Why are you getting them at university campuses? But that being said, I want to end with an example of young people in Africa that organize themselves and be political parties. Didn't happen that long ago, in 2021. In Zambia, a group called Youth for Parliament started out. And if you go and check Youth for Parliament on social media, you won't believe my story, because their social media pages have like 3 followers. But the story of how they organized is a story of thousands, right? So these were young people who wanted to get into politics, young people who wanted to, get onto the party lists and all of those things in Zambia, and they were just being discarded, about 20 of them. So one day they got together in 2018, and they said, if they won't let us onto their list across different political parties, we are going to get young people to vote for youth to go to parliament and to take up positions in municipalities, regardless of their political parties. But if it's young people are going to vote for young people, right? From 20 people under a tree with no money, and they also made the commitment not to raise funds. They got 60,000 organizers and volunteers that volunteered for free, and they got 100 people elected in 2021, 100 young people elected. The story of that is based on a few principles. Number one, find an interest group or find a reason, find a goal that you set for yourselves as young people. Number two, organize where you are. Organize where you are. The way that they organize themselves is they said, if you are canvassing further than you can walk, you've gone too far.
Tell me why Tessa Dooms is on radio, on podcasts, having conversations, and creating the institutions instead of running the IEC. Tell me there is a person in this country more capable and competent, who understands this subject matter intimately, who sees a vision for this country and has bold ideas on how we can move ourselves forward, build the proper accountability, create the systems that make sure that there's transparency. Because you see, no one is going to be a savior. No one is going to be infallible. We have to make transparent systems that we can then track, and we can then see whether or not they're performing and doing what they're supposed to be doing. Tell me why she is not given more responsibility in this economy, more responsibility in our politics.
Shake your neighbor was the campaign called. The campaign was literally called Shake Your Neighbor. And get your neighbors to vote for young people, regardless of party. And so that way they got in a number of different parties. They never registered as an organization, they never registered as a party, they never took anyone's money. But they got 100 young people that were elected through 60,000 volunteers, people organizing where they were. And I think that the young people in this country could learn a lot from that ethic. This thing of being loyal to a party rather than being loyal to a cause or loyal to yourself is not the way to do.
Another few months back in Botswana, just across the border, where young people decided we're going to change
this. They
this.
came out in their numbers. They made the turnout rate 80% turned out. And that's how they got a completely unknown candidate that was never going to make it into presidency, to become president. In fact, a few weeks ago in New York, it was done again in the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party were not going to back Zohan Mamdani. He was not seen as a contender. He didn't take the money from the party. He didn't do any of that. He got 50,000 organizers to do door knocking for free for him from marginalized and working communities. And he's now become their person. He's not the party's person, he's their person.
We can take politics back into our own hands. We had it before with community organizing. We had it before during apartheid. And now we've just outsourced everything, but we can take it all back.
And the way that our liberators became the founding fathers, they take us on this godlike figure. We have to remember that politicians are servants.
Yeah.
They work for us.
Yes.
They work for us. And that doesn't mean we treat them poorly. You don't treat poorly people who work for you.
Exactly.
But they certainly aren't rulers over you. And so we have to think about the way we imagine what a politician, what an elected person is. An elected person is somebody who needs your vote to hire them.
Absolutely.
And the day we get a recall clause in this country that allows us to fire people, we'll see them behave better.
The power does need to come back into the people's hands. We need to be the ones with this economy, with this society in our hands. The steering wheel needs to come back. We cannot afford to allow the people that we have allowed to get away with as much as we've allowed them to get away with, to continue down this path. Otherwise, there will be no country left for our children.
In your view, what's wrong with South Africa today?
What's wrong with South Africa today is that people have become beholden to institutions, and we think that the institutions are more important than the people. We must be ready to question, challenge, and light up any institution if we think it's not working for us. I'm a constitutionalist, but I'm not married to the Constitution. If we must change it, we must change it. It's okay. It will survive. The Constitution will survive being changed. And I'm not saying you change it every day for any person's whims. But part of the reason why I'm somebody who believes that the national dialogue should happen, as long as it happens in a street by street, community by community, in different places. Because I think we need to have hard debates about what needs to change in our structures.
If the ANC was functional, we wouldn't need a national dialogue. If the DA was not so beholden to capital, maybe we wouldn't need a national dialogue. And if the EFF had more votes, maybe we wouldn't need a national dialogue. I do think that there is a need for it. The only challenge is that need arises because of the dysfunctionality, the tone-deaf nature of our current politics, that the party system has given too much power to the parties, and the people are not able to, for example, recall a person that they have then voted for, that the people are not able to make the laws and participate directly in the changing of certain clauses or certain laws and how those laws are applied. These are the problems, is that the colonial structure that was put in place where these laws are decided from very, very far away, that's the system we're still using today, and yet people are feeling the effects, suffering from it, and are not able to change it. And so there's this powerlessness that people feel, and that's because deliberately so, they don't want to put the power back in your hands. They want to be able to run this country by remote control.
What about the structures that we are calling democracy? Do we need to change? And I think we must start having those debates. We're not having debates in this country. We're just howling at each other. And if we use the national dialogue to go to community level and actually have the difficult debates, and those things actually turned into a referendum, if we in a year's time were able to have a referendum on some of the big issues, I think it would take us forward.